I mean, business went from 115 customers a day to like 220, like overnight.
Welcome to the Dispensary Marketing Podcast, where we interview the top dispensary owners and experts in this space so that you can stay up to date with the latest trends and strategies that you'd otherwise miss out on. I hope you enjoy this episode. So, Jack, thank you very much for hopping on this call. So why don't you tell us who you are, where you're located, and what store you run?
My name is Jack Watson. I'm located in Los Angeles. I work at a dispensary called Green Qween. It's in right in the middle of downtown.
Awesome. So what was your background before kind of getting into this space? I know not a lot of people necessarily say, hey, I'm going to start doing cannabis, but, what was the brief overview kind of, before getting into here?
I worked in, hospitality for a long time, restaurants. I'm originally from North Carolina, so nice. I did a lot of like outdoor work as well. I did arbitrary work, climbing up in trees with chainsaws and random stuff like that. And, I'd be lying if I said, maybe I didn't, tempt the illegal side of selling cannabis for a little while.
Sure.
But yeah, mostly a lot of food. I worked in a lot of food and just hospitality in general. So.
Yeah. Were you always big into food? Were you like a big foodie? Everyone's like,
I love food.
Yeah.
But like working in food, no, not at all. I think it teaches you a lot about people and stuff like that. But no, I remember I woke up one day and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I was working with some people who were, doing the same job as me. They were probably, 10 or 15 years older than me. And I was like, I can't let this be what I do for my life. So, yeah.
Right. You saw yourself 15 years into the future and was like, I am Jack. That is not future Jack. There's no way I'm having that.
Yeah, I went to college and I originally went to college to be a nurse. I ended up getting a fine arts degree. So when I came out to Los Angeles, I had some restaurant work just to kind of hold me up, but it definitely wasn't like career oriented. And I was watching, the older people around me just seeming not unhappy, unhappy is the word. They're just like not happy with where they were. You could use it. I was like, I don't want to get stuck. I have to do something else.
So then what was that transition like? So what was that, everyone kind of has that like that slow burn of a breakup, if that makes sense. It's not like you just wake up and boom, I want to get out of this thing that I'm doing. It's more so like, I may or may not want to do that. And then you kind of revisit that 6 months later. And then those thoughts are kind of more and more frequent. So instead of a 6-month gap between I don't want to do this, it becomes, every single month I'm thinking about this, and every single week, and then every single day. About what year was that for you? And then how did that transition then into this space?
I figured that was probably like 2013, maybe 14, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
But it was a quick transition for me. It was like one of those things, like it hit me one day and I was like, maybe this isn't it. Maybe I'm not pushing myself to the limits that I could just by being comfortable. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So there was a specific day and I remember it very vividly. And, I think working in restaurant business, you learn very quickly that in the nicest way possible, some people suck.
Sure. And, people businesses are hard.
Yeah. And I worked in a very, the people that were there were very well off, very, wealthy. And some people are great, amazing, but, you do get the few oddballs like you do in any place.
Of course.
But there was a lady that walked up one day. I was waiting on a table. I'll never forget this. I was waiting on a table. There's a group of like 10 people. I'm taking their order.
Yep.
And this lady comes up to me and she was a regular in the restaurant. And I had helped her. I dropped her food off or something. And she came up to me and she was one of those people like we knew like she's kind of an issue sometimes, like, but you just kind of deal with her. It's fine. And she walks up in the middle of me talking to these people. She takes her hand and wipes ketchup on my arm and goes, "There's something in my ketchup." And like I just looked at her and I just feel like I'm not really an angry person, but I could
Right.
feel the rage like
Boiling up.
inside of me, and it took me a second to figure out what had happened. Like I'm looking, and I guess like my manager at the time, who we're really good friends,
Mm-hmm.
she walks up and like before I even have time to say anything to this lady, she just gets in between us and goes, "Go to the back." Like just go. And I think that was definitely like my tipping point. Like she came
Yeah.
and talked to me after that, and I was like, I was a little aggravated, and I told her I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I
Yeah.
can't. I was like, that was my final straw. And she's like, yeah, that's kind of what I got in between you. She's like, I know. She's like, I can see it. Like, you know what I mean? And so I told her I put in my 2 weeks that day.
Right.
I was like, this is it for me. I have to go do something else. So
Right. Right. So it was definitely a result of, I guess, the people in the business that, made you want to, the word isn't quit, but obviously move on to the next thing. Right.
sure, yeah.
So, what did then that look like for you from like a personal level? Like, a lot of people are like in the moment, they're like, yes, I'm ready to start a new thing because they know their existing thing isn't the thing that they want to do anymore. Did you have like a general game plan, or were you just like, either
Well,
way, I can't do what I'm doing right now?
so I don't know. I don't want to jump off topic and based off of your questions,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so I
No, we're
originally
super free for all, by the way. This is
okay, cool.
definitely,
This might
we,
help. This will help me then. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so
I love getting context from the guests because it also provides the audience a little bit more insight on kind of like the way your thought process and the way you think about problems, right?
sure.
So yeah, no worries.
So
Go ahead.
so my cannabis background actually started in North Carolina. I have a
Yeah.
younger brother who is a brain trauma patient. When he was 14, he used to race motocross. He was
Mhm.
actually extremely good. There was a freak accident that happened, and he had a motorcycle kind of land on his head.
Yeah.
It like crushed at his whole frontal lobe, and he was down and out for quite a while. And basically, once he woke up, like he had to relearn how to do
Hmm.
everything. And I mean that's from talking, walking, eating, everything. So
Yeah.
there were times during his rehab that difficult, very difficult.
Hmm.
And I think there was one night in particular, we were giving him the meds that the doctors had prescribed and all of
Hmm.
those things. And there was one night where, and then this was before he was talking again, and he just wasn't really himself. And there was one night in particular where me and my mom had to give him his medicine, and
Hmm.
he locked his jaws, like just locked him, didn't want to take it.
Right.
And I mean, it was one of those things that I watch. I think anybody that is close with their parents, like watching your mom be upset because of something that she's having to do to a child, it
Sure.
like it really ate
It's
at me. And I
hard.
think I told her I was like, we have to do something else. And I mean, the medicine was making him very like I don't want to say vegetated, but you know what I mean,
Mm.
like very like just
Subdued.
yeah. So I we talked to some people, and my mom worked at a hospital, so we talked to some
Right.
people like with like
Right.
degrees and people that
Hmm.
knew what they were talking about, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were
Degrees.
yeah, you didn't know that at least like they're like yeah, it's okay.
Sure.
um
Sure. Sure.
and they were like you could try this is 2007,
2007. Okay,
2006,
so this was a little
2007.
while ago then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean it's still very illegal in North Carolina at this time, but basically the doctors were like you could try cannabis. They're trying it with brain trauma patients out in California,
Yeah.
but I would just appreciate if you guys are feeding me in on what you're doing.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
And this was a
so
doctor mentioning that to you.
yes.
Okay.
So we tried it, and I mean, honestly, I think it was the best thing we've ever done.
Hmm.
His willingness to want to participate in rehab and just in general, just in everyday like activities,
Hmm.
um, it has done wonders. And I mean,
Right.
he, with any like frontal lobe damage, there's good days and bad days.
Yeah.
It's very controlling of your emotions and stuff like that. So,
Of course.
he has up and down days, but as far as like being able to control his mood swings and stuff like that, I don't know what we would, I don't know what we would do without cannabis, honestly. Um, So when I originally moved to California, I got the restaurants jobs, and that was just kind of like to get money. At the same time, I had connected myself with a medical dispensary that is no longer open, but it was in Santa Monica.
Sure.
And basically, I met a doctor that knew my doctor from back in North Carolina, who I basically became her liaison between her and her cancer patients to the medical dispensary.
Okay.
So people would, that I feel like quitting the restaurant thing was an easy transition for me, only because like the restaurant was just kind of there for the money. Like the money was good,
right?
But that was it. Like I didn't enjoy what I was doing. So whereas working at the dispensary, I was able to commit more time to that.
Sure.
And I mean, I think being able to just share my own story and experiences with most of the people that were coming to see me, not all of them, but most of them were the older generation who have still viewed cannabis as this big illegal drug, and like even questioning, they're like, I don't know why I'm here, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do drugs. And just being able to kind of comfort them and get them to understand that like, I'm not here to get you high. Like there's a lot more aspects to cannabis than just getting high. I mean, all of that has kind of changed over the years, as it's become more recreational, and that's kind of where it's more based at. But I definitely come from like a more medically based background for cannabis.
Right. That's crazy. Well, thank you for sharing that story. There was that small thing that you said about you were making money, but it didn't really matter. I think that whole thing about like money doesn't buy you happiness until you realize that money doesn't buy you happiness is kind of the motto. Because people are like, oh, I don't have any money, but just wait until you get into a position where it really doesn't matter. Then you'll actually be able to see exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think because it's easy. I feel like you can, with the right amount of commitment, you can make money anywhere.
Of course.
Just, I don't, I'm not going to drag myself down daily and just regret what I'm doing. I feel like that's a terrible way of looking at it.
So what does the day in and day out look like when you're running the dispensary?
I mean, my phone never stops. I will say that. I mean, the day in and day out, and I mean, it's it's gotten a lot better since business has gotten better as I've gotten more of my people acclimated to their jobs and what I need them to do.
Right.
But I mean, day to day is I usually speak with the owners first thing in the morning. I talk to my staff throughout the day. I usually beginning of the week I place all my orders for the week, and I try to get as much of the little things out of the way. Payroll, scheduling, payments for the week, that kind of thing. All the very basic things I try to get done as early in the week as possible, just because it makes for the end of the week a little easier. But I mean, I'm lucky enough that the owners that I work with now, neither of them are from the cannabis space. They're not. I use the word tainted, but you know what I mean. There is a very stigmatized idea of who is in cannabis, who runs cannabis, and my owners are not that. They're two. One guy is basically from politics, and the other guy is like nightlife. And we all mesh very well together. Everybody kind of knows their place, but we all work together and cohesively, and it's really refreshing. And I think I've done a good job of not to toot my own horn, but I've done a good job of helping them trust me, and I can do a lot of my work remotely. I choose not to. I try to go into the shop at least 3 times a week. But I mean, most of my job could be done remotely. I still act, so I go on set and I work from set.
Oh, nice.
And I think they've learned to trust me and know that just because I'm not there doesn't mean I'm not doing
work.
What needs to be done. So yeah, I mean, my day to day, while it can change, most of the changes come from a staffing standpoint. People calling out or that kind of thing, but nothing too crazy as of right now.
You mentioned since you started working, things got a little bit easier because you were able to get people acclimated to their jobs. What exactly did you mean by that?
So I think I have some staff that have worked for me for 5 or 6 years now.
Sure.
They've actually worked with
Sorry,
me.
to give context, how long have you been working at the dispensary?
At this particular one,
Yeah.
2 years this month. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
We opened up 2 years ago this month.
Awesome.
Um,
Awesome.
and then some of the staff I have with me, some of my upper level staff,
Yeah.
my store manager, my assistant store manager, they were with me at my previous location that I had opened and worked with me for 3 years over there.
Nice.
I've worked in a lot of places where management, I've worked in a lot of poor workspaces.
Sure.
Where, management can make life difficult and, just make work, I don't want to say not fun, but, not enjoyable.
Right.
No one wants to go to work for the most part, unless you're doing something that you actually love. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get that. So I try to allow my team and my employees to have a safe space at work and be comfortable and be happy and enjoy what they're doing while trying to teach them something at the same time.
Right.
I'm not someone that likes to hover over my staff. I give you a job or jobs that I expect to be done, and as long as you do them, I'm not going to hound you about them.
Right.
So I think letting them understand that I'm not coming from a place of management to be like, you do what you're supposed to do, but
Right.
giving them the freedom to, like, take control of what your responsibilities are. And if you're not doing that, then we can talk about it. But for the most part, it's been great. And I mean, we started off, business was kind of slow. We first started. And, I think that comes from, there was a third party company that was involved with our dispensary, who, I won't say any names, but they had opened up a major cannabis chain early on. And when they were working with my owners, I came in after the fact.
Sure.
And they were very much, some of their ideas were good ideas, but their ideas were for a larger company. They were, setting these goals and boundaries of what they wanted the store to do and things like that. But at the same time, like, not understanding, like, this is a single business. It's not multiple stores.
Right.
So, like, they were setting them up to have multiple stores, but I sat down with the owners one day and I was like, we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to afford any of this. And, they hired a bunch of people to start with, and I had to kind of come in and, like, trim it down in the nicest way possible. And I mean, I don't want to let people go.
Yeah.
But
I don't think anybody
very
does.
honest with people, and, I'm like, I don't have the hours to give you. We're not that busy. So, the first 7 months was tough. It was really tough. And I was in and out on whether or not I was going to stay. And then once kind of the third party got out of the way and we took control of the business, I was able to teach the staff the things that I know, the things that work the best. And I mean, I've been in cannabis for 12 years now. So, I think I have a lot of knowledge that I want to share. And I, when I hire people, I don't imagine they're going to work for me forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand that my job is a stepping stone for most of these people. Not everybody. I think so. I do have a few people that I think, will continue to grow with the company as the company grows. But I know that most people, like, their whole life isn't to be a butt tender. You know what I mean? So I teach them skills that I know, things that I think will help them to, if you get a better offer somewhere, go. Like,
Sure.
I'm not gonna beg you to stay here. I'm not gonna tell you, like, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, you should do whatever's best for you. And that's, I think my staff has kind of grown to trust me and, understand that I need things done. But as long as you do them, like, I'm not going to be standing over you, like, hovering or questioning you day to day on what you're doing. So I think once they finally realize that, the job is theirs to have if they want it, I think the whole, like, energy changed in the store. So I think it was nice.
Right. Let's say I'm a dispensary owner. How do I find someone like yourself to be able to, because clearly you're a competent individual. Some days.
Some days.
Okay, competent and humble, sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kind of anecdotes that you were telling just now, just, from hiring and firing employees, from being able to retain employees from different businesses, from being able to being the autonomous individual to run the business, and also instilling enough confidence in the people that you work for that you can also kind of essentially, have a side thing going on at the same time as doing the main thing, right? As the acting. So for the dispensary owner that's looking for someone, maybe not exactly you, but someone like yourself, right? What would some of the main things that you'd be looking out for to work for an employee to get someone like yourself on board?
I mean, I think there's a lot of good people in cannabis that are out there that, I have some great people that I've worked with before who, they may not be like working in the best environments.
Sure.
Sometimes you got to go where the pay is and stuff like that. But I mean, there's good people out there, and I think honestly, like anybody that comes from like a hospitality background, anybody that's worked with consumers face to face, like sorry, cat, watch out, man.
It's okay.
I think you need that. I think a lot of especially like the bigger companies like to go in the direction of people who understand like computers and software and things like that, and how all those things work, which is great. I think those are very important. But if you don't have somebody that is a people person that understands that, a lot of my job is talking to people and talking to vendors and talking to employees, talking to customers, talking to owners. I feel like my whole job is to make each party equally happy without upsetting any other party.
Sure,
and I think that is, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I find for myself is, finding that balance. But I think as far as like finding the people, like if you're looking to hire, I think it's really comes down to a personal level. Like, is this somebody that you can communicate with on a day to day? Is this someone that, and it's hard because I mean, I've interviewed people and hired people that didn't work. Some people interview extremely well. And I mean, it's hard to know until you actually get in there and, start working together. And I think especially like when times get really tough, that's when you kind of see who people are that you can trust. But I mean, I think a lot of it is just finding the people that you can work with as an owner, because as an owner, I get it from their standpoint. Like, it's their baby, they see it, it's their money. And I think, that's one of the things that, I've told a few of the past owners that I've worked with and the current owners that I've worked with. I'm like, I love you guys. Don't come in my store.
Yeah.
And in the nicest way possible. Like, they're in all the time and they're very sweet. But you know what I mean? Like, when you come in and you start looking around and kind of like micromanaging things, it can really kind of throw everything off. It'll throw employees off. And like, I get it. You see things working one way, like you see your money. That's what you see. But that's why I say find people you trust that you can talk to. Like, so you don't have to come in and delegate on the floor where, it gets definitely a bad response from other people. So
Right. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this episode and are looking for some marketing help for your own dispensary, you can check us out at cannabudmarketing.com or visit us in the links in the description below. Now, on to the rest of the episode. So how did you go about turning around the store? Like, what did that look like? So, 7 months in, you're like, oh crap, we gotta do a bunch of stuff. What were the actionable items that you took once you were like, okay, I'm in charge of the ship right now. These are the things that we're doing. What did that look like?
So I think a lot of the third party, in the sweetest way possible, was costing us a shit ton of money. Like having to pay all of their employees and all the people that they had brought in was really digging us a really big hole.
Right.
And not to mention, I think one of the most important things that I've learned working in dispensary is, you take care of your vendors. You make sure they're paid. I think there's a lot of dispensaries, especially like the bigger companies, that
those are all the headlines you see.
Oh, it's always there.
Oh, look, big insert big brand name, missed X $1,000 of payments.
And it's like, especially like, cannabis always has a new mom and pop brand that pop up every day. Like, there's always something new. And I think not taking advantage of these little companies that, because a lot of cannabis works in consignment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, give it to me up front, I'll pay you later. I think one of the biggest things I had to do in that first 7 months was get all of these people paid off that they had borrowed so much from. It wasn't borrowed, but it's like they had paid these people up front, or they're not paying them on time, which is really kind of hurting myself when I'm trying to place new orders. That and staffing, they hired probably 15 more people than they needed to hire.
Right.
So I had all these people that wanted hours, and I didn't have hours to give to anybody. Right. And it kind of came down to, I just kind of had to be honest with people. I was like, look, I have this amount of hours. I need to know who is committed and who's not. And, it kind of evened itself out. It was rough for a little while, but doing that, I think, changing the menu in the store. Our store it's huge in the sense that it's very open. Like you walk into it and it's very much like a grocery store. There's stuff on the shelves. We want it to be like a marketplace.
Right.
Our whole thing is to have a place where people can come and buy cannabis and be comfortable. And that's people from all walks of life, from anywhere. And I think we've done a good job of that now, but I definitely had to kind of curate the menu. I basically had to redo our menu. I'm very particular about, like the flower that I carry.
Yeah.
I'm a flower smoker myself, so like I'm very particular about it. As far as like vapes and edibles and stuff like that, I mean, I have everything. I have anything that's new and seems appealing. I have it. If you have any kind of special way that you try to intake, I have it.
Right.
And I mean, I love to try new things. I love to try new brands and put them on the shelf if it seems right. But I definitely think curating the right menu, I think finding the right marketing for, our area. When we first opened, there was a MedMin up the road in downtown, and there was a couple other dispensaries. So, I mean, really hard for us to kind of like get our foot in the door.
Right.
So, we did mailers. We have an alleyway that's painted by a very famous queer artist, and we throw events in the alleyway and that kind of thing. And like we have like pop-ups there where small queer-owned businesses can kind of come and pop up shop, and it's on the outside, so it's not
like community engagement activities and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, we're always trying to do stuff to basically invite everyone that's there. And I think that, and then fixing our SEO, which I wasn't something I was familiar with a few years back, but extremely important now. Most people, there's weed maps and stuff like that, but especially like for our particular location in downtown, we're near a lot of like the very big hotels and very expensive hotels. I think we're one of the closest dispensaries to crypto arena. So, most people that are in town are just going to Google cannabis. And I think really kind of making sure that we're at the top of the line of the SEO was extremely helpful. So,
right.
Yeah.
So from an SEO perspective, what did you do? Did you work with like a team? Did you do this yourself? Did you go into the trenches and, kind of self-learn?
So I can't take credit for the SEO and marketing. That would definitely be my owners, Andres and Taylor, and then we have an amazing marketing guy named Joe, who they go through and try anything and everything.
Right.
But they did work. I know that they worked. Well, we are still working. We work with a company that handles all of that, but that's definitely more something that they have done on their side. And I mean, it's they've done a great job. We went from like bottom 10 to like we're almost number one in most aspects now. So
nice. That's huge. You mentioned about the curation of your products, which is really interesting. So are you the person that kind of decides, well, obviously like the end kind of decision probably lands with you, but do you do like customer surveys? Do you chat with the rest of the team? How do you know which products that are coming out are the ones that you want to have on your shelf?
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely communicate with my team, especially, my team that's working in the store. They're the ones that are on the front line. They're the ones that are listening to customers. What are customers looking for? I try to do a good job myself of being on the floor occasionally and talking, but definitely like I talk to my team and even like when I tell them like, hey, we're trying something new, like let me know.
Yeah.
I very much want their feedback because I think it would be selfish and ignorant of me to be for me as an individual to be like, I know everything that needs to go in the store. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I very much I communicate with them. Like if my owners and see something that they're interested in, like I reach out, I try to figure it out. But a lot of the staff does a good job of communicating with me when they hear, especially so at the beginning of February, the MedMen above us and the Litco close to us both closed down same time. Different reasonings, but I mean, business went from 115 customers a day to like 220 like overnight. And nice. I mean, it's been great. No complaints on this side, but
of course,
definitely, especially like with that influx of new customers and them coming from new dispensaries, like we want to be able to hold on to them as lifetime buyers, especially if they're locals.
Of course.
So a lot of what my staff does is listen to them because they'll come in and maybe the other shop had something that we don't necessarily carry. Cool, let me find it. I'll find it. I'll bring it. We have enough space in our store to where I could probably at least add a third more of what products I already have. We already have probably
a third more, as in you have enough space to add additional products to the store?
Yeah, probably. Like if we really condense it down, because we're really trying to get, like I said, we're really going for this marketplace idea where you're walking into a grocery store, and I mean it's packed. Like everything is there, and we have baskets. We have a red basket and a green basket. If you grab the green basket, it means I'm open to getting some help. If it's a red basket, it means I've got it. I can handle myself, and I'm good to go. We still have bartenders on the floor that'll be like, "Hey, you need anything?" But for the most part, like there's enough room to where if people want new things, like we can bring them in. And like I said, I try to keep a good repertoire with my vendors. So, I think they do a good job of communicating new products that they have coming out as well. I think one of the bigger things about being able to take care of your vendors is that your vendors will take care of your employees, which is the biggest thing for a store and any brand is that the people that are working your floor are familiar with the products they're getting and they feel like they're supported by those brands in the store. So I think, my team, there's little charts and stuff that they can fill out that talk about, products that employees are looking for, or that customers are looking for, or, anything that maybe they've got a lot of complaints on, like that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think it's a group effort, but it does I get the final say, but I don't hold that over anyone's head unless it's something that I'm like, no, we're gonna keep this. So, but that very
for sure. For sure. What's your current biggest challenge? Running the store.
So many challenges. I definitely think
you can name your top three if you would like.
Yeah, I think curation is bottom of top three, and I think that's more so just making sure that I have something for everybody because not everybody's gonna want the same thing. I think making sure that I have a happy staff. I think the biggest challenge is making sure everybody is happy, and I feel like because of my place, in the the stack of people, I want to make my owners happy. I want to make my management happy that's under me. I want to make their team happy. I want to make sure that security is happy. I want to make sure that the customers happy. There's a lot of me making sure that everyone else is happy, but also at the same time trying to make sure that I'm checking in with my own self, which I think is a big thing that a lot of people get lost in is am I happy? Am I okay?
Is your cup full?
Yeah. I think that's definitely my biggest challenge. Everything else kind of comes, I feel like I've done it for so long. It's just kind of second nature, and you get random things that pop up every once in a while. But I mean, it's definitely just finding the happy medium for everybody as far as like keeping morale up and happy and all those things. And it changes day to day, especially with our owners. Like one of my owners is very much like, if he gets an idea, like he pops it out. He's like, "Hey, let's do this." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's think about all these things that we need to do.
Yeah,
we can't just do this overnight." So
yeah,
I think that's my biggest challenge.
Right. So how do you keep people happy?
I mean, it's one of those things, like, you can't make everybody happy. Like, you know what I mean, all the time. And I think especially like my personal team, like the team that works under me, I think that they trust me and they understand that, like, I do a lot of stuff out of my way for them. Whether has something to do with a discussion for with the owners or anything like that. So I think that they trust me enough to understand that when I tell that, like, I'm very honest. Like, if something's not working, I'll tell them. If something that they were hoping was going to happen isn't going to happen, I'll tell them. I'd rather be upfront with people and not like lead them on, like, "Oh yeah, it's fine, it's fine. If it's not fine, I'll tell you."
Sure.
I want us all to be on the same page, and
sure.
I don't want anybody to work with me under false pretenses. So
right.
I think that would be it.
So you've had just general experience in the cannabis space for a little while, all the way from medical to where you currently are. Where do you see the future of the cannabis industry heading?
I mean, I think we all hope that soon it's federally legal. And I think, I think there's a lot of money to be had, and a lot of money that could benefit, states that may be struggling. I eventually want to go back to North Carolina and open up a shop.
Nice.
What my own personal goal is. I have all my families out there, all my friends are out there. I would love to bring my knowledge and my know-how and bring it to that space and create something that people could enjoy going to. Sorry, sidetrack. What was your question?
Just where you saw the future of the cannabis industry heading.
But I mean, I think once it goes federally legal, I think once banks are allowed to get completely online, I definitely think that we're going to see a decline in the mom and pop shops and see an incline in like Pepsi or Coke or Budweiser,
the corporations,
whoever these corporations are that want to come in. Because I mean, I would assume most of the mom and pops places that are open now, they can get easily bought out by a corporation. Somebody gives you the right amount of money and puts it in front of you. Why not? And I mean, I think we're opening up a shop in Sherman Oaks that should be open in the next 3 or 4 months.
Oh, nice.
We're fingers crossed, we're looking at a West Hollywood location. So I definitely think we have plans for all of that to happen. The corporations to come in and want to buy the mom and pops or the small chains and things like that. And I think when all of that happens, I would love to see cannabis take a direction in being a little more clean as a whole. I think it's a very wasteful career
from like an environmental standpoint.
I mean, I think because of the laws and regulations, and I understand some of them I don't understand as much, but I definitely think like we waste so much stuff because we have to have specific labeling or specific packaging, and I think we're not helping any kind of environmental problems that are going on. And I think my hope is that once it goes federally legal, that some of the laws and regulations can change and become more federal laws than like state to state laws, as far as like what's necessary and all of those things, but it's a it's a very wasteful uh, very wasteful thing. So, but I mean, I definitely think big organizations, corporations, and stuff will come in and take over. It's like they do everything. So,
sure, you'll have it's like very similar to the alcohol space. You know, you have your beers and then you have your craft breweries and stuff like that. But for the most part, you just have your bars that are serving, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it'll be something very similar to that. Honestly, I think there'll eventually be lounges more so than there are now. Like, there's a few out there now, but I think that as the older generation moves on and some of the more open generations start to move up, I think we'll start to see those changes. So.
Right, for sure. I have this interesting little segment, where different dispensary owners get to interact with each of their questions. So on the next dispensary owner or, other expert on the podcast, what question would you have for them?
I guess my question for them would be, how do you go about delegating? How do you go about delegating to the consumer why the prices are what they
are? Interesting.
And I think
so pricing education?
Pricing education, yeah.
Okay.
And I think because, everybody's prices can be all over the place, but I mean, with taxes, like I have people that come into our shop that, they're from out of state. They don't, they've never been involved with having to pay tax on cannabis, probably been buying it from their guy for $20 their whole life. So
yeah, everyone has a guy.
To explain to them why I have a 39% tax and that I'm not ripping them off. Like, this isn't me, like, I'm stealing your money. I'm not. Like, I'm genuinely not. Like, I'm not getting any of this. And I still have to pay taxes on the back end of it. Yeah. I think how do you communicate that with people who just don't know or don't understand? And some people just don't want to hear it. They don't care. They just, you're stealing my money. You don't have to buy it. You don't. I don't mean that in a mean way, but if it's too expensive, don't buy it. Like, maybe it's a priority thing. So.
Right. And then the question from the previous guest. So, the one that we have here slightly is different, but I think a question that I had earlier on would be, I think you would have a lot more insight about, and it's about the whole staff thing again. So they run a few dispensaries, and their question is how do you go about keeping staff happy?
So, I mean, I try to make sure that when I hire people that, I know what their wants and needs are right off the bat. Like, how many hours are you looking for? Like, what environments do you work best in? I think always checking in with them. I check in with my staff every week, like, how's everybody doing? I even try to do, individual conversations with people when I'm in the store, just checking in, seeing how things are going. I think a lot of people get lost in their day to day, especially like in upper management, and they forget that, these are still just people that are working. They're just working for you, but they're still just people. And I think, I think showing to your staff that you are, that you care, and I mean, I don't mean you have to care, like you have to take care of them, but just showing, that you care about how they feel and like what their day to day looks like. And, some people everybody's got shit going on. You never know. Like, people have their own personal lives, and I think, sometimes people just need a hug. Like, I think, and not always, like,
good.
But I think that's the biggest thing. It's just, checking on them. I think it's again. I don't think that you can think that anybody that comes in as a bud tender wants to do that for the rest of their life. I think I think still treating them like people, like they matter, is probably the most important thing. And that's honestly what I try to do. And I think I would say I have great turnover rate. Most of the people that have left have either been by their own choice because they had, a bigger, better option. And, I'm all for that. Had a couple people leave because, they hit kind of like the same place that I did in the restaurant business. They're like, I have to do something else. Cool. Go do that. And I've had people that have left and have come back. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like left on good terms, and I try not to let anybody leave on bad terms unless you're doing something you should not be doing. But
Right. Skimming some product off the top or
yeah,
something.
yeah. But I mean, it's even like I make sure that my vendors take care of my employees. Like I
Right.
think
That's a
making
good
sure
one.
your vendors are paid helps get your employees taken care of. They'll get samples and things like that. I think it's the little things. I think it's
Right.
just not micromanaging, but trusting that they understand what their jobs are, their roles are. Uh, yeah, comfortability for everybody, I think is great.
With those 2 stores that you're planning on opening up, touch points are going to decrease just by nature because now you have 3 stores, right? So do you have a different action plan for when those stores open up? Or are you just going to try and increase like, like are you just going to drive around town like a madman and be like, I have to say hi to everyone and stuff like that? Like, have you thought about that?
No, I mean I have for sure.
Yeah.
I have someone that works at my current store who um, she's my store manager, and she will take over day-to-day operations once I'm gone, which she kind of already has. I've slowly kind of been
Nice.
stepping myself further and further back to give her the opportunity to take on that role. But definitely, like with the 3 stores coming, like I do kind of have a plan in action, which is the current store I would probably only visit it like once a week, and that's
Right.
more so just to kind of check in with her, check in with her managers, see how everybody's doing. And then, I mean, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm hoping that both of the other stores don't open at the exact same time. I'm
Sure.
hoping there's at least like a little bit of space.
Yeah.
But I have, so the assistant store manager, so it goes me, and there's my store manager, Dominique, and then I have one more assistant store manager whose name is Alyssa.
Awesome.
Alyssa will transition into Dom's role in one of the other 2 locations.
Right.
So Dom and Alyssa have both worked for me 5 or 6 years, so they know how I work, they know what my expectations are, that kind of thing. They've also worked with Green Qween since we opened, so they understand what we're looking to do. So I think that will make my transition a little easier. And I think we have a good line of communication. But I mean, it's definitely like it'll definitely spread me pretty far.
Yeah, for sure.
And that I think there are certain things that I do at the store that I guess I have held back on giving to the staff to do. Do you know what I mean? Like there's certain things that like
things you haven't delegated as yet.
Yeah, and I think there's not a ton of them, but there are like little things that I know that I could pass off to someone, but it's just kind of one of those things like hold on to it for a little while. I just want to make sure that everything else they're doing is correct before I give them the last couple things on their board. But I think I think delegating, being able to delegate the right work to the right people will make my life easier. But I know that the one we're opening in Sherman Oaks, it's a very saturated market, so it'll be tough over there. There's some big competitors over there, some legacy brands that have been there forever. So I will definitely be committing more time to those 2 because of the spaces that they'll be opening in.
Right.
Whereas I think I've been lucky enough to put 2 years worth of work into my current location to where I feel like it's in a comfortable spot. So, as much as some of the stuff I think about kind of puts me like in a nerve wrack, like I think we're in a good space. But
sure, nice. So, I also have the other question about if you were to start over, what would you do? But I think a better question is if/when you get back to North Carolina and you open up your own dispensary, what are the core things that you're gonna do because you're essentially restarting from scratch again?
Well, I mean, I'd have to start with all new staff, people that I don't know, people who aren't from any kind of cannabis background, probably for the most part. And then I think it would be, especially being in that location, like, I mean, cannabis is still illegal there.
Right.
Like it's decriminalized now, but still technically illegal. I think being able to build a space that is both welcoming and, helpful to the community will be very important. I think one of the biggest things that you can do in a new location, especially a place that doesn't have cannabis or hasn't had cannabis, is give back to the community and stuff.
Sure.
And I think, like whether that's, contributing to a charity or, contributing to, building parks or something like that, you have to show something that, I'm not just here making drug money, which is how a lot of people will see it to start with.
Of course.
And I'm hoping that, I can, I'm from the city that I'm from, there requires that in order to open a business for most places, like you have to have been established with inside the city or the community for X amount of years. So I have people that have restaurants and stuff there that, we will partner up and do it together. So I think, a lot of it will be making sure that the consumer and that the population within reach of the store is comfortable with what we're doing and understanding that we're doing it in a professional, legal way that, is also contributing to funding school clothes or something. I don't know, but
nice. Something in the community, something positive in the community.
I feel like if you're not, especially in those small spaces where, it can be kind of small-minded in the way it thinks sometimes, would be very important to the community as far as like acceptance. So
sure. Awesome. So what's next in store for you and for the shop over the next little while? I know you have the grand openings and stuff like that. Is that probably the next
thing? I mean, that's definitely where my focus will be. My focus for this month is 420. Definitely
as with everyone.
my least favorite holiday of the holidays. I mean, it's actually usually not that bad. It's great. There's usually a good vibe inside the store and everything like that. But as soon as that ends, it will definitely be the focus of, we're working on finalizing getting the furniture and stuff for the Sherman Oaks location. We're waiting to hear back about the other location in West Hollywood. So I assume that's where my main focus will be in for the next like 3 to 4 months. Honestly, I can't imagine that they'll have me doing anything else. We've talked about some other locations a bit further away, but I think that's a little further down the pipeline. So
right. Awesome. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to get in touch?
You can hit me up with my email, jack@thegreenqween.com. Queen is spelled with a W. But yeah, I mean, I'm very responsive to my emails. I try to stay on top of them. And our location is 1051 South Broadway in Los Angeles. We're right across the street from the Hoxton. Great location. Probably 10-minute walk from Crypto Arena. So
awesome. Well, Jack, thank you very much for hopping on the show. Until next time.
Cool. Thanks so much.
See you guys later. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Dispensary Marketing Podcast. My name's Brandon Qween, and I'm the founder of Cannabud Marketing, the #1 marketing agency of choice for dispensaries, both in the United States and in Canada. If you ever want to get in touch with me about any marketing strategies, tips, and tricks, I can definitely help you. Just go visit our website at cannabudmarketing.com. That's CANNABUD marketing.com, or just check the links in the description below. Until next time, talk to you later. Bye.